Hi everyone, you are watching The Doctor's Diary. Now, we have a little bit of a different video for you today, as in this video, I will be doing a tier list ranking every mainline Sonic game from the original Sonic the Hedgehog in 1991 on the Sega Genesis, all the way up to the newest mainline title currently of Sonic Frontiers on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and of course the Nintendo Switch. And I'm doing this just in time for the new Sonic X Shadow Generations game that will be coming out this year, which I'm so excited for. Now, the Sonic games have been a massive part of my childhood growing up, just as much as Doctor Who has. They have really formed my identity as a person. I've loved Sonic from day one, and I have played probably each and every single one of these games 5 to 10 times at least, and that is not even an exaggeration. So they have really formed me as a person and really helped me through big times in my life. So I am really looking forward to being able to do this ranking list here with you all today, ranking these titles. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this tier list. Sonic games. So down here we've got all the mainline Sonic titles. You may have noticed there's no Sonic and Knuckles, but I've just decided to pop that into the Sonic and Free category. So when we talk about Sonic and Knuckles, it's also going to be in with the Sonic the Hedgehog Free title. So here are all the titles. So let's begin obviously with the original Sonic the Hedgehog from 1991 on the Sega Genesis. Now obviously this is a classic game that has been redone time and time again. Different variations have come out in like the Sonic Mega Collection, you've got like the Gems Collection, you've got obviously like different adaptations through like Sonic Mania and Sonic Origins Plus and stuff like that. So it is a classic game and it is quite a fun game overall. I wouldn't quite say though personally for me that it's an S tier, as I am a little bit more of a modern Sonic fan than a classic Sonic fan, but I would say it still holds up fairly strong to this day, and so I would put it in a safe B tier for me personally. Now next up we've got Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which introduced Tails to the franchise, and Tails is probably one of my favourite characters of the whole show. Just like these new Sonic the Hedgehog movies that are out now, I'm so happy to see Tails on the big screen. I would probably say for me personally, it sort of improves a little bit on the original for me, but I would say overall it's got similar vibes to the first one, and so I would also put Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in a B tier. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. I'm not as big on Sonic the Hedgehog 3. It's not terrible, so I don't think it would go in E or F tier. I don't know. It's probably one of the old. It's one of the games from the older generation I've not played as much. This is my least played of the original three Sonic games. So I would probably say it's not bad. So I probably would say, for me anyway, it would go into the C tier list. Now we've got Sonic CD, which this game is absolutely fantastic. Has the concept of being able to travel backwards and forwards in time, go into the past, present, and the future, and it changes the environment around you. Has the introduction of Metal Sonic, Amy Rose. It's a fantastic game. I absolutely adore it. It's going into the A tier. It is definitely the best so far. Now, these next games, I've played these to death. Every single one of these games I've played to death. Unlike these ones where I have played them a fair amount, but not... Well, I'd probably say if I was to put a tally on it, I'd probably say I've played all these at least 10 times through, whereas these I've played maybe 3 or 4 times. It's a lot less. Sonic Adventure DX, the Director's Cut, or Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast. This game is just amazing. It's brilliant. It is so nostalgic for me. It was one of the first Sonic games I ever played. Not the first Sonic game I ever played, but it is one of the first 3 Sonic games I ever played. And I had so much fun with it. Although I did embarrassingly get stuck quite a lot on the Big the Cat fishing levels, surprisingly. I don't know whether it was just my controller or whatever was glitched at the time. It just would not work for me. So for a very long, it took me ages to be able to actually do the final Supersonic story, but it is a very, very good game. I love the ability to play as different characters. You've got Sonic, you've got Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big, Gamma, and they all have different play styles. Gamma's is really unique with the ability that the timer goes backwards when you're playing through the levels. So you've got to shoot different targets and enemies in order to rack up points to make your time go up. It's really, really good. Amy Rose getting chased down through all of her levels as well by a robot. It's got a bit for everyone, really. For me, I would say, yeah, Sonic Adventure, easy A tier for me personally. Now, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. This was the second ever Sonic game I ever played, and I have played this to death. I've played the hero story to death, the dark story to death, and even the final story. One of my favourite levels is Cannon's Core, and I love fighting Biohazard as Shadow and also Biohazard on the attached to the Ark as Super Sonic and Super Shadow. One of my favourite levels in this game is definitely Pyramid's Cave. I also love Metal Harbour, Green Forest, Skyrail. Pumpkin Hill has one of the best soundtracks of any level I've ever played in Sonic. Obviously, you've got Live and Learn as well, which I'm praying is in the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie. And it's just got such a cool story. And for that reason, it's got to be the first Sonic game to go into the S tier. It deserves the S tier for me personally. It's fantastic. Now we have Sonic Heroes. Now, this is the very first Sonic game I ever played. I had this on the Xbox originally, and then I got it on the GameCube, and I've played it on the GameCube ever since. I love the team format. You get to play through the story 4 times, but each time is different. It's not like you're playing the same game 4 times over, really, because the first one you play as Sonic. If you're doing it in order, you play as Team Sonic first, so that's normal difficulty. Then you can play as Team Dark, which is hard difficulty. Then you play as Team Rose, who's easy difficulty. And then you've got Team Chaotix, who's sort of a mix, and they have like a mission mode where you have to maybe collect 10 keys or find so many Chow or defeat so many enemies in order to beat the level. It's really good. And then you have a final mission story then fighting against Metal Sonic, and it is brilliant. I've only played the final story 2 or 3 times, but I've played through all the team stories a billion times. And might be nostalgia for me talking, but it's also going to be an S tier because I have so much fun with it, and I still play it strongly to this day. It is a fantastic game. Sonic 06. Right. This is a difficult one. This one's in dire need of a remake, I think. It is one of the glitchiest games I've ever played. It obviously has an infamous scene towards the end, but it is unique. It does introduce Silver the Hedgehog, who's a very cool character, and you do get to play through 3 different stories. One is Sonic, one is Shadow, and one is Silver. And there's some very unique levels in it, and it's got a hub world as well that you can run around the town of Soliana, sorry. It's interesting. It tried to be expansive. It tried to be Sonic for a new generation, and it succeeded in some areas. It's got a brilliant soundtrack. That's the one thing about all Sonic games is they all have amazing soundtracks. However, I don't like revisiting this game as much as others, and the levels aren't as exciting. It feels a bit janky at times. Sonic feels either really slow or too quick. There's like fast, high-speed sections at the end of Sonic's levels sometimes, and they are too quick, and he just goes too far out of control. So unfortunately for me, I would personally say Sonic the Hedgehog is going to go into the D tier. It's not awful, but my enjoyment of it is not as high as most of the other games on this list. Sonic and the Secret Rings, I also have similar feelings to this as I do Sonic the Hedgehog, so I'm straight away going to also put this into the D tier, because Sonic and the Secret Rings was the first of like the storybook franchise. They only ended up doing 2 storybook franchise games, but this was the weaker of the 2 storybook franchise games in my opinion. Sonic gets sucked into the world of the Arabian Nights and has to help rebuild the pages of the Arabian Nights from being wiped out by the Eraser Jinn. Meanwhile, Sonic's on a countdown for his life, as he got this flame on his chest, and if it extinguishes, then he will die. Again, the soundtrack's fantastic, but I don't think the Wii controls really help this game a lot. And again, Sonic feels very janky, it's very stop-start. The levels look quite beautiful, but just the game mechanics don't really work as well. So unfortunately, it's going to be in the D tier as well for me. Now, Sonic Unleashed. Controversially, but I'm going to also put this straight into the S tier. I've never had more fun in a Sonic game since Sonic Heroes than I did with Sonic Unleashed. The daytime stages are fantastic. It's the perfect level of high speed and slow nature. You have so much fun with the boost mechanic, which this is the first game that introduced the proper boost mechanic that then goes forward in most of these other games. And then the Werehog stages give a bit of variety. Sure, they slow down at times and turn into a bit of a beat 'em up, but I kind of like that switch, so you get the best of both worlds. And the Werehog abilities are cool. You know, his ability to swing, stretch his arms out, you know, do wide punches, his howling, his climbing walls, his running on all fours. It's just really, really good. It's a strange concept to have Sonic turn into a werewolf at night. But the Dark Gaia boss fight at the end is one of the hardest boss fights I've ever had in my life. And I like that in a Sonic game to have a little bit of challenge as well. I find that some of these Sonic games, they're a little bit easy at times, whereas this Sonic game was really, really difficult. The one thing I would say that I'm not a big fan of in this is medal collecting. You do have to collect Sun and Moon medals in order to activate the levels to go forward, which can be annoying, especially towards the end of the game, because they require you to have quite a lot of Moon and Sun medals. I love the character of Chip. I think Chip is a fantastic companion for Sonic, and I really wish Chip would come back. You had Tails and Amy to have some of Sonic's familiar friends. Professor Pickle was a hilarious character as well. So overall, it's a fantastic game. So it has to go into the S tier as well. Now, Sonic and the Black Knight, the second and final in the storybook franchise. I actually have a lot more fun with this one than I do Sonic and the Secret Rings. For me personally, I would say, I don't know, I think the story of King Arthur was a lot more interesting. They fleshed out the characters a lot more. They had a good twist as well. Whereas in the first game, you had this companion travelling with you, and she was the good guy as well all the way through. But in this one, you have another companion with Sonic helping guide him, but actually she turns out to be the secret villain at the end, so it was a good twist. And it was just really done really, really well. Music is fantastic. The sword swings are very clean. The game mechanics are good. Sure, it does have a little bit of the jankiness that Sonic and the Secret Rings has, but it more than makes up for it in the story and some of the combat, and being able to play as lots of different characters as well. You can also play as Knuckles, you can play as Blaze the Cat, and you can play as Shadow the Hedgehog, who are playing different Knights of the Round Table, like Lancelot, etc. Characters like that, and it's brilliant. I would say probably, for me, it's only a little bit better, but I'd probably say, yeah, it's probably about a C tier. It's a little bit better than Secret Rings, but still not quite up to par with some of the others. Sonic Colors is another fantastic game as well. For me, that's going into the A tier. I recently also played the new Sonic Colors Ultimate as well, which I thought was also really good. I do like the original, but the remake remaster is also really good as well. The different color abilities are really good. My favorite one is the one that can dig through the ground. I think that one's fantastic. The soundtrack is brilliant, especially the Aquarium Park. That level has one as my favorite tune that I always end up humming to myself. It is brilliant. Eggman wanted to build a theme park out in space in order to harness the powers of these wisps, which are the different coloured abilities that Sonic's able to use, this alien species that Eggman's trying to harvest. It's a bit of a weird plot, especially since it comes off the back of games like Sonic Generations and not Sonic Generations, comes off the back of games like Sonic Unleashed, where he literally split the world into pieces. It's a bit strange, but it's Eggman. But yeah, it's a very, very good game. Has a lot of replayability as well, just to be able to try the different abilities. I love Sweet Mountain as well. The candy level is brilliant. But yeah, so then for one of Sonic's anniversaries, we've then got Sonic Generations, where you get to play as both classic and modern Sonic, and that's really good. And you get to play as classic and modern Sonic for each little world as well. So modern Sonic levels get a classic Sonic version, and I think that is just amazing. So getting to play, stages from like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Colors as classic Sonic, I think is really, really good. And basically most of the games on this list here get a level in this. But it's, for Sonic's birthday, all his friends get taken away by this mysterious Time Eater being, which we find out is the result of Eggman and Robotnik teaming up, throwing Sonic's friends into different levels from his past, and he has to go through each level and rescue his friends before a final boss battle where you turn Super Sonic for both classic and modern Sonic, and it is really, really good. Obviously, the soundtrack is superb as well. The unique soundtrack is great, and obviously it uses songs from all these other Sonic games as well. So it is brilliant. It's definitely got to go for me into A tier. It's not quite an S tier game for me, but I would say it is a strong A tier game, and I'm really looking forward to Sonic X Shadow Generations as well to see how that furthers on from this game, what it adds. Now, Sonic Lost World. Oh dear, the poor Wii U only having one core mainline Sonic game, and it's not a very good one. If I'm being perfectly honest, I like what they were trying to go for, but I actually think for me, it's going in the E tier. It's not a very good game at all. It's so difficult to control. The levels, it's trying to be Super Mario Galaxy, but for Sonic. It is definitely trying to take inspiration from that. But I'm sorry, but Super Mario Galaxy does do it better than Sonic Lost World. These Zeti characters, these different, creatures that Eggman are trying to control are ridiculous. They are just so silly. It's way too goofy, and all the characters are annoying as well. That's the worst part. I think apart from Eggman, it's like Sonic, Tails. They all just annoy me. So it makes the cutscenes unbearable as well. It feels childish. It feels really childish, and so I wasn't a massive fan of the gameplay at all. So unfortunately, it's got to go into the E tier. Sonic Forces as well is not the best game. I had such high hopes for Sonic Forces. The concept of Eggman actually winning and taking over the world and kidnapping Sonic and making everyone believe Sonic's probably dead is really good. Finally, having your own character as well, your own customizable, playable character, teaming up with Sonic, making you feel like you are teaming up with Sonic to help save the world is another great idea. But unfortunately, the levels are far too repetitive, far too easy, far too short. And they threw classic Sonic in there for me, I don't really know why. It was very clickbaity, all the trailers showing like Shadow and Metal Sonic and Chaos and all, when you don't even really fight most of them. You don't fight Chaos properly in the game. It's just a bit silly, really, if I'm honest. I wasn't a massive fan of this game, and it's for me, it's a D tier game. It's low on this list, unfortunately. And then finally, we've got Sonic Frontiers, which was a massive change in tone and style. This was, if Sonic Lost World was Super Mario Galaxy, Sonic Frontiers is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because the open world aspect of it was definitely Breath of the Wild. You have like 4 or 5 different hubs, which are very huge, and Sonic can sprint through fields, through deserts, through volcanoes, through deep dark forests, through mystical ruins. It's brilliant, but the levels feel a bit odd at the same time because you just have grind rails randomly placed in areas, jump pads. The Titans are brilliant, and I love the ability to play as Super Sonic to battle each of the Titans. So rather than make Super Sonic a final boss character, you can play as him all through the game once you get to each of the Titans. Is brilliant. Cyberspace made it feel a bit like Sonic Generations, getting to play through old levels, but in like a glitchy way. So you got levels like Green Hill and City Escape and Radical Highway all thrown in there, in bits and pieces. It's nice. The character development, though, is what saves this game, I think, is because Sonic is so mature, he's so grown up, so wise, he still has the charm. He goes on a proper journey. It's like he's finally grown up. And from coming off the back of Lost World and Forces, it's lovely to see. Um, Eggman as well, actually showing like compassion towards a daughter that he'd created is great, even though Eggman spends all the game more or less trapped in cyberspace. Watching Sonic have to save his friends and slowly get corrupted by cyberspace is interesting as well. And also the fact that Tails, Knuckles, and Amy go through their own little arcs. Like Tails finally realizes that he wants to be able to stand on his own 2 feet and not have to rely on Sonic anymore. Knuckles wanting to go on his own adventures. Amy finally realizing that maybe Sonic isn't going to settle down yet and so needs to go and explore and find, new meaning, new people. Can't It's all about not having to rely on Sonic, really, and it's beautiful to see, and it's good that it comes full circle. So I really really do enjoy this game, and I've played this on both the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch, and both versions are really good for me. It's just, it's hard. It's like, if I'm going based on character development, I want to put it in S tier, but I think overall, because of the gameplay as well and the cyberspace levels, even though they're good, they're not great and they're very short. I'm going to put it in A tier, just because it doesn't quite reach the levels of S tier for me. But yes, this is my list. In S tier, we have Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Unleashed. In A tier, Sonic CD, Sonic Adventure, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Frontiers. In B tier, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. In C tier, Sonic 3 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic and the Black Knight. In D tier, Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic 06, Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic Forces. And then in E tier, Sonic Lost World. Well, I hope you did enjoy this tier list ranking the mainline Sonic games. I know it's a little bit different from my Doctor Who content, but I said I have lots of interest and I want to expand the channel a little bit more. So stay tuned for the next video, which I will be going to a Comic-Con down in Weston-super-Mare. So you may see another vlog coming from that Comic-Con. So have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.